Mobile gaming needs to be stopped. At least that's what the title of the video is. In reality, I don't mean they should cease to exist. I just think they've gone several steps too far, and there has to be new laws around what they can and can't do. Originally, this wasn't going to be a scripted video, but I came to quickly realise this is a topic I am clearly very passionate about, and I kept messing up the facts. Recently, I made a video talking about Watcher of Realms getting caught rigging their summons. If you haven't seen that video, I highly suggest watching it, since I'm almost certainly going to reference it at least once within this video. But I won't go over the full story again. Essentially, it was an error surrounding the coding of their seeds and RNG. Whether it was intentional or not, we'll never know. But since making that video, it's all I can think about. I played the game, I spent money on the game. It was when I was stuck in my gacha sort of addiction loop. And essentially, I never got anything good. Thankfully, I obviously became an official content creator with them, got a ton of in-game rewards, and it sort of skyrocketed my account straight to the stars, so it let me finish pretty much the bulk of the content very, very quickly. The only stuff I couldn't finish was the stuff that needed very specific heroes. But very quickly, before we continue to talk about this issue, I was alerted to another bit of controversy surrounding Moonton that caused a lot of players to find their accounts at minus 35,000 gems, which I can't remember exactly how much that is, but it's at least £100. Maybe $150, probably even more than that. So how this happened was due to a bug on a brand new website they created. It was set up to almost be like a rewards program or a loyalty system. You'd log in, do one or two things, and you'd end up with 10, maybe 20 points, and eventually be able to use these points to buy summoning items, gems, even some stuff called W Gold, which is the real life currency that you basically purchase. I think in total for everything you needed about 1,000 points, maybe a little bit more. And obviously the idea is it's supposed to take you several days, but as a loyalty thing, you eventually get the points and then you can buy all the items. And like I said, the rewards were really quite good. But if you didn't feel like waiting, there was a pixel that you could click at the top left that rewarded you with 1,000 points every time you clicked it. Obviously, this was not intended, and in my opinion, it's something called a debug spot. Minigames has various types of debug spots or debug menus, and it's to allow developers or testers to get really strong gear or strong characters or stuff like that really early on in the game, so that way they can test everything, make sure everything works as intended without taking too long or without any struggles. This spot on the website, in my opinion, was almost certainly so the developers could test everything works, make sure all the items were purchasable, and make sure the stuff you were given in game is the correct things. The fact that the spot was still there on the website, and the fact that it went live, is obviously a huge blunder. But the fact that people even made videos about this and telling their audiences to go and do this, in my opinion, is an even bigger concern. It is painfully obvious that this was not intended. So using this to get hundreds of pounds of free rewards was never going to be left unchecked. Especially not on a mobile game where money is literally everything to them. Moonton got called out for fixing this mistake within an hour or two, when bugs surrounding things like the clan boss have been in the game for months. Many people say that when it comes to losing money, devs pull their socks up and get things done really quickly. But the fix in question was removing access to a website and maybe removing a button in game. It would have taken no time at all. Whereas even trying to find the cause of some of the bugs to do with complicated mechanics could take a very long time. I want to make it very clear, I am not siding with Moonton on this. It was an obvious exploit that never should have been publicly outed, and personally the creators covering this should have taken their video down once it was patched only an hour later. But that's my opinion. Back onto our original story though, a true journalist would have moved on by now. So I understand that as far as journalism goes, I've got a long way to go. But I don't want to move on. I get it, I've made my piece on the subject, now time to go find the next piece of news that's out there. The issue is Moonton is going to get away with this. And worse, how many other companies are doing this out there, and maybe even worse? I briefly mentioned the MapleStory lawsuit surrounding Nexon, but for those of you who are unaware, Nexon is current holder of the largest fine in history when talking about rigging loot boxes and having unfair gambling practices within their games, sitting at just under $9 million US. At the time, there were sources claiming that Nexon were tracking a lot of what you did in-game, and all of this would affect the likeliness of you getting good rolls using an item called cubes. There were reports saying that having higher powered friends on your friends list could lower your chance of success, or if you'd recently spent a lot of money, all of this would reduce your chances of succeeding using cubes. Essentially anything and everything that could lead to a player spending more money out of frustration would, and obviously did, affect your results when using cubes. Though I have to clarify, I've spent ages trying to look for sources for this and I cannot find any. So all this remains is just an allegation. Circling back to Moonton and specifically Watcher of Realms, I want to recover their absolutely disgusting in-game events that I briefly touched on in my previous video. That, and the discovery that I without a doubt had a gambling addiction, and I was using gacha games to feed this, was eventually the reason I decided to quit the game. To make sense of it all, I will quickly cover the different summoning options within the game. First, you had regular summons. These could reward you with common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, and finally legendary lords, with the latter being the most powerful and rare heroes to acquire. Then you had divine summons, which cost something like an average of $10 for each one. And bear in mind, your first 10 were actually rigged to always give you the same rarity of hero. These rarities could either be epic, legendary, and again, the elusive legendary lord. Before someone corrects me in the comments, yes, there are epic and rare lords. They're mostly used as stat sticks, but they can serve a purpose, but they are nothing compared to their legendary counterparts. Lastly, we have ancient summons. These are stupidly rare and stupidly expensive, and the majority of the time they would reward you with rare heroes. But within all of these categories was something called the chaotic faction, which were typically far better than your standard heroes, and they were all ancient exclusive. Later on they added a second faction like this called the arbiters, and like I said, all ancient exclusive. Some heroes they deemed too good for regular summons despite not being chaotic or an arbiter, such as one of the heroes we'll cover called Soul Cadens. He's the hero on the thumbnail. The introduction of this hero was done through a global summoning event, where the top 3 players would get Soul Cadens. Eventually they did release him into the summoning pool, but only in Ancients. The top 10 or even 20 players in these events would always score hundreds of thousands of points, costing them thousands, potentially even tens of thousands of real life cash, for a single event that they probably did once a month. This greed is on another level that we've never seen before, and it is so utterly disgusting. There are other games we absolutely need to talk about, games where content creators have shown off their accounts where they've spent over $100,000. So, let's talk about Diablo Immortal, a once reputable company like Blizzard with titles like World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Hearthstone, StarCraft, and of course Diablo. They let their name get dragged through the dirt with the release of this Diablo 3 clone with added gambling and pay-to-win mechanics. The creator in question is someone by the name of JT It's All Business, whose videos 2 years ago showed off his account that he had spent over $100,000 on. And in fact, in one of his videos, he was talking about how the fact he can't get matched in PvP anymore since it has a hidden elo system. Because his power is so much greater than everybody else's, he wins every single match, being the top player, with ease. And because of this, the game would only match him with people with similar power. And big shock, there aren't many players willing to spend that kind of money on a single game. And honestly, this is just insane to me. As a fun little comparison, I bought my flat for £75,000, which is about $95,000. An entire flat for the amount that he spent on a single character within a mobile game. But what's the point of me bringing up this creator? Am I trying to imply this creator is insane for spending that amount of money on a game? Sort of, yeah. But more so, I think it's truly insane for a game company to allow this. What's worse, I don't even think his character was maxed, and if he was, it just takes one patch to add a whole new level of power creep for you to spend another $100,000 on. And this is where we circle back again, because I want to talk about a comment that I read on a video talking about a Watch of Realm news, saying how everyone who spent money should sue Apple. Yes, Apple, not Moonton. Their argument was for hosting a game that was rigging their rates, it is their platform. They should be held responsible. My first response reading this is, what an idiot. Why would you go after Apple and not Moonton? The company that's behind this should be held responsible. But then it got me thinking, maybe they're actually right. If we go after the companies that own the app stores, that would be an absolutely much bigger target. And if we are somehow successful, think about all the games that we would impact. The whole app store in one go. So maybe he's right. And I've decided that I think I'm going to reach out to Apple and contact their support, let them at least know of this situation, and perhaps even attempt to get a refund on all the money I spent on my account. I highly doubt I'll get any success out of it, but it's worth a try, and I'll let you know how it goes in a follow-up. Speaking of contacting people, I have actually reached out to a few larger gaming news channels, asking them if they would cover the story. This is not a story I want to just blow over until the next company comes along and does the same thing, going undetected for years. Unfortunately, I haven't had any responses yet, so we might be on our own on this. My reasoning for doing all this is because I am a small creator, but my goal is to slowly push mobile games and games in general to get much stricter laws around microtransactions. You should not be able to spend $100,000 on a game. Not even on a game, on an account, on a character within the game. And you certainly shouldn't be able to spend $10,000 during an event. These are going to be a topic we revisit from time to time. I'm not going to make a new video on it every day or every week or even every month. But as and when we see this happen, I am going to cover this. Because we will see it happen again. My idea is we'll cover the stories and we'll push a little bit harder each time, and hopefully we'll have a slightly bigger audience to back me as well. Before I end the video, there's one last thing I want to say, and that's a response from the players within Watcher of Realm. Unsurprisingly, most people are overjoyed and they feel like they've been made whole by the compensation rewards. And I've seen many people talk about its value of hundreds of dollars, and in reality it costs the company absolutely nothing to send this out, and I do not remotely think it'll affect people's spending habits. Free players will remain free, spenders will continue spending. We will never get a unified front when facing the greed of these companies. I understand that. Mobile gamers and I don't often see eye to eye, and that's fine. But hopefully most of you at least agree with my opinions within this video. If you do, or if you don't, I would love to hear your opinions on the matter in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening. We're about to hit 1,400 subscribers, so a huge thank you. It would be amazing if we could hit 1,500 by the end of the year, but that's a huge push. But again, thank you very much, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.